I just keep buying tabletop role-playing games, and what happens is every time I open the book, the game master in this one is called the Grim Chronicler, and the players are called the Unfettered Ones, and instead of rolling a skill check, you tempt the Watcher of Fate. Is it possible for a game to overdose on its own vibes? For the game itself to get lost in the vibe sauce? I think of tabletop role-playing games, from your Dungeons & Dragons to your Bunnies and Burrows to your You Are Quarantined with Adam Driver and he's insisting on showing you his new script, as vibe generators. They're machines that take what we put in and turn it into a shared hallucination with a common aesthetic. Whether that's, we are heroic adventurers in a fantasy world, we're scoundrels and we like to steal, we're a high school volleyball team, and this senior year is our last chance to make it to nationals. We are... what the f*** are we? And we can't get there without vibes. Either the game brings the vibes, or you do. But what percentage of a game is allowed to be pure vibes before it receives that most dreaded dismissive of criticisms? Style over substance. It's understandable that people would slap that criticism on something that feels like a barrier between them and actually playing the game. And in the case of TTRPGs, which need to be understood in order to be played, I have to say, I agree with none of them.
Let's talk about the role of visual art in games that we mostly imagine together.
I can sympathize with the argument that the presentation of rules in a tabletop role-playing game should be as streamlined as possible. That way all the mechanics disappear into the background. Or put simply, make the game easy to run and play so you don't stop to look shit up. I'll beat a dead horse for a minute here and use the Borg games as an example. And there are games that take this way further that we'll talk about later. Here are the actual rules of Borg. So how come the rulebook has this many pages? Let me describe the experience of looking something up in Borg. You are playing as a gutter-born scum. There is no table of contents. You do remember that it's past, but not right by the four-eyed goat with the severed head on a chain and the grippers out. But if you see kitchen knife goblin with shadow dingus, you've gone too far. It's like walking through your hometown or turning off quest markers in the minimap in a game like Tears of the Kingdom. As time goes on, the landmarks that stick out to you become your guide. I'm not saying it's better than putting tabs in your PHB and your DMG to put an APB on your RPG rules, but it is cooler than that. And the experience of trudging through these loud, abrasive images and layouts to find what you seek in the diseased, often very funny muck and grime, your senses assaulted by what looks like a post-grad art student's zine that they left on a coffee shop table so that an old lady will pick it up and take psychic damage, is directly in service to the vibe generator. It undeniably adds something to the experience. Whether or not that experience is to your taste, to call it a lack of substance is like saying that album covers and book covers have no bearing on your experience of those things. And maybe, future commenter, audience, antagonist, straw man that I'm arguing with in my head right now, you also think that that's true. And I'd have to say you're wrong on that one, bud. No way Van Halen's Jump is hitting the same if you don't have to look at the 1984 Cigarette Angel Baby every time you pull that bad boy out for a listen.
Let's talk about ergodic literature.
This isn't a Borg review, but that game does serve as an entry point for one of the buzzwords of all time, ergodic literature. If you're even a little bit of a weird horror girly, you've probably heard of the ergodic literature poster child, House of Leaves. It's a horror book published in the year 2000, and it is a little freak of a tome. It's doing the Weird Tales thing, where it's a framing narrative inside a framing narrative about a really weird house. First, it measures a bit bigger on the inside. Then, unexpected doors appear that should lead outside, but instead open to extra-dimensional spaces or seemingly endless hallways. And when the residents of the house cut a hole in the walls to try to make sense of what's happening, the layout of the book changes to reflect this. Our framing narrative footnotes now contained within this hole in reality. There are appendices with what is supposed to be clarifying text that dissolve into incoherent rambling and literally illegible text as you read deeper. The word house is up every time it appears in the book. Ergodic literature means a non-trivial effort is required from the reader to understand that shit through a non-traditional engagement with the text. Picking it up and reading it front to back wouldn't be enough. The term showed up in the 90s as far as I can tell, but functionally erotic literature is a lot older than that, like 900 BCE older. But House of Leaves stands out as a work that has made a lot of people say, maybe we're not getting freaky enough with how we present our work. And writers aren't the only people who do this. Although some crusty geezers will say, no, don't use ergotic as a buzzword in your medium. Find your own esoteric aesthetic terminology. But their need for restrictive organization and categorization is outweighed by my need for them to eat my ass, by my need for a convenient term. Also, f you, I made you up. And whether inspired directly by House of Leaves or not, we have plenty of folks trying to push the boundaries of their medium by changing the way the viewer, listener, otherwise verb-er, interacts with it. Like internet horror with a little wacky ARG, or video games that require you to solve problems by messing with your system settings or plugging the controller into the Player 2 port. Yeah, I know Metal Gear Solid came out 2 years before House of Leaves, but you know Kojima's smoking that shit in some capacity. Just look at PT, Jesus Christ. Anyway, tabletop role-playing games are no exception. Our old pal Borg has been described by many critics as playing with ergodicity, the quality of being ergotic, but at the end of the day, you can still use it like you would any game book, and it still plays how you would expect a TTRPG to play. But there are others. But first, this is the sponsored segment of the video, or it would have been. Let me explain. I want to steer in the opposite direction for a moment and talk about two kinds of games I do not usually seek out. The first is the bring your own vibes brand of games. I'm talking about your GURPS, Fate Core, Cortex Prime, to a lesser extent wackier stuff like Savage Worlds. While undoubtedly useful, this approach of stripping away the expressive elements of a game down to mechanics that can suit anything the game master wants to build is so hard for my brain to absorb effectively until I see it lovingly dressed and seasoned by the GMs who bludgeon it into their favorite shapes. The second is Diceless TTRPGs. The feeling I'm left with is usually, well, that was fun, but it was also just kind of improv with a writing prompt. So for a game that is both diceless and bring your own vibes to appeal to me right out of the gate, it would have to be both stripped down to its simplest, most useful state, carry an inherent vibe that sucks me in right away, and feel like it can resolve things in a reasonable way without getting into hour-long theater kid arguments that a dice roll could sort out in one roll, which sounds impossible, or so I believed. Last year, I got to play a game called Enclave. It's a diceless, open-genre role-playing game that I'd love to tell you to go support on Kickstarter, but I didn't finish this video on time, and late backer pledges ended last week. So by all rights, I should have nothing to say to you about this game. The thing is, I'm still playing it. I've gotten to spend a bit of time with the creator, Robbie, and his grasp of tropes as game mechanics alongside his general good faith player-first design made me very interested in this game. Since then, I've played as a self-serious child soldier, learning how to express emotions in a healthy way while blasting through aliens, and a con man lawyer, who is a vessel for a demonic immortal spirit of justice. This game can withstand whatever the players and GM want to express without losing its sense of self, or collapsing mechanically, while also not falling prey to that diceless foible of just being a playground argument with writing prompts. I'm going to share a snippet of my talk with Robbie.
So design-wise, it comes down to world building. All player characters are agents of this organization called the Enclave, at the heart of an infinite world called Manifold. And you're going to a different place every time. The one constant is the Enclave, this strange organization at its heart that is kind of omnipresent, but is known to a fraction of a percentage of a decimal point of the population.
I was talking about the game after we played with my wife, and she was like, oh, that sounds like Doctor Who. Every week is this vignette into like, this is the cyberpunk episode, and this is the just train robber Old West episode. And I was thinking of using it to run like this is Magic the Gathering essentially, and we are planeswalkers just like hopping from story to story. And I think it facilitates that really well while maintaining its own sense of identity, which is what I kind of worry about the sort of bring your own vibes
I agree.
games, is that, and like, you know, when I was a kid, it was mostly GURPS or like the genre-esque systems that were like bring your own vibes, like Big Eyes, Small Mouth. You know, I'm a weeb, so all the anime games I played the crap out of. It really seems like Enclave has, stylistically, it's got some teeth that are going to pop out in pretty much whatever game you play. How would you describe like the inherent vibes of Enclave?
Since Enclave classes tend to draw from archetypes across all media, all literature. I feel like archetypes often kind of have a nesting point somewhere kind of deeper in the human consciousness. It's Jungian to say, right? But I do kind of believe that. And because of that, it feels, to me at least, to be a game that feels kind of familiar to a lot of people, because it has a lot of these touchstones that they might be familiar with and are kind of nested in the cultural identity of the media that surrounds us. Sorry, that was wildly pretentious, but I do believe it.
That whole talk is also on the channel. I'll link it in the description, and I'll make sure to have some sort of link in the description for you to go and check out Enclave for yourself if it sounds like your cup of tea. But without further ado,
let's talk about some more unconventional role-playing games.
there's a spectrum that the most elite scientists in my entire house have coined the graphite spectrum of how quirked up your game is. Right here in the middle, we have most marketable TTRPGs. One of these. The values we're measuring are not a perfect encapsulation of all that TTRPGs have to offer you, but they are convenient metrics for looking at the level of effort being asked of the prospective players and/or game master. We have premise. The further away from the center a game's premise is, the less it resembles heroes killing dragons and other monsters to save the land from grave peril. Grant Howitt loves to climb this one with his wealth of wacky one-page games. Over here is how unhinged the gameplay experience is, physically and logically. In the middle we have rolling dice and adding modifiers. Out here we use Jenga towers, we light candles, and we send text messages. Our old pal Mörk stands proudly at the halfway-ish point on our final metric, presentation. In the center is an indexed book of rules that tells you how to run the game, with another book or section for the players. Any one of these values can get pretty high and it'll stay safely in the yeah, you could presumably run this zone. But if we take two of these values and crank them up, or push all three to medium high, we enter into the you're gonna have to make some assumptions zone. For instance, Lacuna Part 1 Second Attempt has a pretty unconventional premise, asking players to take on the roles of agents in Blue City, a place formed by the overlapping latticework of the Jungian mass subconscious. And you drop in Inception meets Severance style, knowing very little about your own character. The gameplay experience is also pretty non-standard, measuring your character's resting heart rate and max threshold in a way similar to HP, and your communication with Control, your soul linked to the waking world, aka the Game Master, gets less clear the more static you accrue. You, the player, are not allowed to use your own pencils or dice until your character receives proper security clearance. The clearance is tied directly to the presentation, which is in my opinion our highest deviated value in Lacuna. The book is divided into sections by security clearance, and each section has more esoteric secrets about the game world while also getting more distorted and disorganized. White and green being available to basically everyone, blue being granted only after character creation is complete, deep blue and black visible only to Control, the Game Master, and wine level clearance available to no one. At no point in the book are you granted the clearance to read this section of the book. Curious, I emailed the creator of the game asking for temporary wine level clearance so I could look at the pages. To my delight, I got a response. Access granted. And the wine level section is where we finally learn that all of this has always been, there is no such thing as a wine level clearance, please disregard.
Louder.
There is no such thing as a wine level clearance, please disregard. I fucking love this game. Another game that plays with multiple values on the spectrum but still retains a sense of playability is Onaut. You're facing off against primal figures of myth for the good of all mankind. Nothing too unusual there with the premise, except you do have to be asleep to play it. Half instruction manual for lucid dreaming, half gamified dream journal. It's not impossible to imagine actually playing this game while looking at the rules. It even codifies sleep paralysis demons into a gameplay mechanic and instructs you to defeat them by remaining calm and developing good sleep habits. The very existence of a Chekhov's graph like this insists that it must be cranked all the way up to the max in the third act.
Let's talk about Normality.
January 26th, 2010, 10:40 p.m. I am simply confused. There is nothing in here even remotely resembling a game, even despite the warning that this isn't your typical RPG. I downloaded the PDF and was greeted by pages of text all in various states of legibility. Those that I could make out were confusing and only led to further frustration in deciphering this mess when attempting to read sentences that were too faint or not quite all there. There's so much more I want to say, but I have neither the time nor will to continue reviewing this garbage. April 16th, 2014, 4:23 p.m. This only qualifies as a role-playing game by the loosest and most generous of definitions. It's presented in the words of a writer who cannot be taken seriously or can be seen as anything but a pseudo-intellectual with a bachelor's degree in philosophy, eliciting such wonderful imagery as an unemployed Washington 20-something who thinks there's depth in their choosing not to be of any use to anyone, least of all themselves. Jesus. Normality is a polarizing game. Like, the statement, normality is a game, is controversial. You know how anytime there are cuts in arts funding or layoffs in creative fields, there's like 40, I took this profile picture in my truck with my Oakleys on guys in the comments saying, well, if someone's gonna make $6 million for taping a banana to a wall, and these losers can get a real job. Normality seems designed to bring that guy out of TTRPG fans. I'm not gonna give the CBS receipt length list of content warnings for this game. Just know that if you go into it looking for something you find tasteless, upsetting, or harmful, you're gonna find it. So put on your psychic hard hat. The main rule book aims to disarm you at just about every page. It's part stream of consciousness rant you write down while you're tripping on acid on your best behavior, and when you come down, all you ended up writing was lemons are verbal anomalies. And part collage of random advertisements, textbook pages, instruction manuals, and articles that serve a similar purpose to splash art on page breaks, dividing the book into sections. Early in the book, we are treated to a poem about a Maori Jesus being lobotomized, after which the sun stops rising. And through whatever Holden, Caulfield, mescaline-fueled haze the narrator or narrators are trying to communicate with us, one thing, and perhaps only one thing, is clear. The world of normality has gone very wrong. The people in it, including those who are in-universe writing the game book, are not okay, and we are going to be playing as those people. We are not going to be okay. Comics penned in a quivering, frenzied hand show us the state of the world, and it is brutal. Disjointed rants about the Bush family, the existence and suppression of the supernatural, some kind of psychic plague. It all gets slapped together and smeared around enough that you have to focus so your eyes don't slide off what seems like nothing. Is it nothing? You drag your mind through the unraveling rant of a narrator who is the only person that knows what you need to learn to play this game. And is it a game? He keeps lying to you. Is this a game? He's laughing at you. Why is everyone laughing at you? Okay, now we're ready for character creation. Lectio Divina was formalized in the 6th century as a method for gaining a personal enlightenment on and deep connection to scripture. In Lectio Divina, you do not study and dissect the text. You engage with it in these 4 steps. Lectio. Reading. Sit down and read that Bible. Wait for the parts that jump out at you. 100% vibes-based. Meditatio. Meditatio? Meditation. Listen to the inner message of those words that you vibed with. Not for a deeper understanding, but to live in communion and dwell there with the living word. Oratio. Prayer. Really strike up a dialogue with your vibe passage from earlier, out loud even. Contemplatio. Contemplation. Chew on that dialogue and sit in silent appreciation of the union between you and the aforementioned living word. Basically, that's how you make a character in Normality, except with any old secular text. Unless. So grab a random book and fill in the blanks on the character sheet with the first words that stand out. That's not even in the main rulebook, as in a supplementary document called A Guide for Prospective GMs, which seems like it was published reluctantly. It also goes on to say that you should be lying to the players, often and with increasing boldness. Everything from the chaotic gamebook to the insistency that the players must be forced into some heinous act, and that you should always make it worse, never forgive, never forget, and the bulleted list of brainwashing techniques. Everything in both books is serving one purpose, beyond the surface level of like piss off your inner truck guy, to propose a game in which we are as indistinguishable from our characters as possible, and in questioning their reality, our reality, in taking heinous action and falling apart in a world poisoned by something, in participating in what feels like MK Ultra designed by the 14-year-old versions of me and my friends that read Kurt Cobain's journals and said, literally me, and seeing just how much we can cram into the box called role-playing games before someone says, all right, enough is enough. Does it sound fun? No. Well, kind of, in the last 20 minutes of an Ari Aster movie kind of way. Does it have mechanics? Kind of. Is it needlessly edgy in a way that takes me out of it? Yes, but then it makes me laugh by saying things like, the GM should read the book cover to cover twice, then sleep with it under your pillow for 2 weeks before running the game. Or it hits me with some genuinely cool shit, like when a character dies, they can become a voice in another character's head, like a Greek chorus commenting on their choices. And I can't help but love Normality for what it is. whatever it is. And when somebody sees a game or a sculpture or a movie or a painting or a YouTube video and gets angry because it doesn't have an apparent and immediate purpose, and they cry out, "Style over substance," or they wake up Jordan Peterson from a ketamine nap so he can throw a brick at Elmo, I feel like there's a lost opportunity to find out what actually happens when we meet something on its own terms, even if those terms are difficult, mysterious, or I perish the thought, cringe. I choose to believe that the you that you are can withstand it. The unfamiliar is an idea super collider that smashes preconception against novel experience until they form something that only you can have. I'm not telling you that you should go out and only experience art that you find inaccessible or unpleasant, but I am inviting you to pause the next time you think or say the words style over substance and recognize the opportunity, whether you take it or not, to feel the substance within the style of a banana taped to a wall, of a TTRPG that seems to hate you, or that ambient noise album your friend swears is fire. The same goes for art that we feel is beneath us. God forbid we sit down to sincerely watch a movie based on a book that teenage girls are reading. Ew, no, I have to be mad and think of whatever young women like is frivolous and bad. Ew, ew, ew. Life's too short to not vibe with shit outside of your vibe zone. I know that y'all have some crazy games in mind that I didn't mention. Please tell me about them in the comments.
I also want to say thank you to my patrons. Some of you know this already, but I did lose my job earlier this year, and I've gone full-time editing and producing YouTube videos. And boy howdy, you patrons sure have let me bridge this gap. So thanks for your support. I want to do cooler stuff on the Patreon when I've got the bandwidth. I guess, well, if you're on there, shoot me a message and let me know what you want to see.
Show this video to your English teacher, keep your pencils sharp, and there is no such thing as a wine level clearance. Please disregard.